Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today we're going to setup, play and review the game Nucleum, and for the first time ever I'm showing a mid-game setup which has been played just to show you how it works. I've tested other people and I do feel this is the best way of explaining the game. So on your turn you will have some starting tiles. So I happen to be player A, but you might be player B, C or D. And you're going to randomise who starts, and whoever's going first is taking his first player marker and starting with our last player. So we're playing as a two-player game. This is the 1 to 2 side of the board, otherwise it's 3 to 4. You are going to decide which experiment kind of board you're going to take, which is A, B, C or D. I happen to be going last and I happen to pick A just to try them out. And these are normally not left in these slots, they are normally actually off to the side and you put them in. I personally find in terms of space, just leave them all in and just notch them out as you use them. Please make sure you always punch through from the top to the bottom and then just put them back in again like that, because otherwise they do get a bit fiddly. So we are industrialists. It's about 100 years ago, and a woman called Elsa has noticed that you can basically make very powerful steam that you can generate electricity from by basically getting nuclear or uranium particles and turning it into steam, obviously via generating power from them. Or you can use coal. So we have coal in this game too, down over here, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. But we have noticed we can use nuclear reactors. On this particular game, they are called Nucleums, so that's why we have them here. And what you're going to do is you're trying to get the most points in the course of the game before the end game triggers. Now, in a 3-player game or a 4-player game, then there are only 2 triggers needed. But in a 2-player game, there are 3 triggers needed. What are those triggers? Well, they're kind of shown here, but let me talk to you about them. One of them is as soon as someone reaches 70 victory points, that's an endgame trigger. Another one of these action tiles, when they all get depleted, so there's none visible here, that's an endgame trigger. As you can see, there's a little flag marker to show you. As you can see, there's a little one down here too. So you're going to take one of these off. Another one is you get all of your 8 experiments completed, or basically used. Another one is you're getting rid of all these yellow, which basically are gold, and iron contracts. You can have purple ones, but that's not part of the endgame trigger, as you can see. And there is a final one as well. So in terms of that final one, ultimately, you are going to be doing recharge, which I'll talk to you about. It's one of the 3 main actions in the game. And once you've got all of yours out, so in this case, we almost have them all out. They're down here, but I happen to be playing blue and someone's playing yellow. Once the final one from everybody's played, then that obviously triggers that as well. So what do you do on your turn? Well, everyone's going to start off these action tiles. So I've got one visible here, like I said, an A1, and I can choose to do one of 2 things with it. I can choose to place it up on my board here, in which case this gives me a develop action. A develop action lets me take one of these tiles. This will cost me nothing, and these ones cost me a bit of money, and I can buy a second one paying 2 cash to basically take another one plus its cost. So that is what develop does. So I could buy this to let me do more develop actions. I'll tell you why in a moment. Then in either order, you can do that, then you can do this or this and then that. I can get myself 1 worker and add it to my supply, or I can get myself 2 money, which is talers down here, which is spelt T-H-A-L-E-R, which is German currency back in the day. That's one thing you do. Instead of placing it here, you can place it out on the board. So this happens to match like this. It doesn't have to match. You can be completely not matching at all. But if it does match, you get the bonuses. So you can do in any order again you like. I can choose to get one of those tiles. So I grab this one for free, for example. And this is a wild, so it matches with purple in Zwickau. Again, taking one of those 2 workers. You then also, to trigger the action, you must have a worker available. Hence the little symbol here. And it goes on here. And you flip it over and you do this. Now, you might have noticed, well, this is here on purpose to show an example using a different one, but imagine I had no workers left. Well, firstly, it's somebody else's turn. So now they're doing one of those 2 things, placing it down or placing it up here. Why do you want to place it down on track? Well, you want to connect up your cities because you are going to have buildings that you're going to bring out. Buildings are good, like this one over here. It's going to need 3 power. Where do I get the power from? You can get them from, obviously, these nucleums. In this case, I've got a nucleum, but I've got no uranium sent to it. Luckily, I've got a mine, which I'll talk to you about. This mine does connect up because I've been building up roots, and as you can see, you can reach it. So on a future turn, I can take an action, which I'll talk to you about, which allows me to power it up. So 1 uranium gives me 2 power, and I can get an additional 3rd power from, in this instance, from coal. Now, coal initially starts off quite cheap. You just pay 1 money to get some coal, but as you use it up, you flip these over, so they've got more and more expensive until eventually you spend these as well, these 2 value ones, and of course, they're just going to cost from 3 from now on. So let's come back and spend what happens, why you want us to stick it over here. Well, if you stick it over here, we could do a recharge because I'm out of these action tokens. So I need to bring them back into my hand. So to do that, what I'll be doing is a recharge. What this means is you look to these 3 income markers, and as long as it's got a thing above it, I take what it is. So in this case, I take 10 money, 10 thala, and 1 victory point. Over here, I take myself 4 workers and 2 money, so 2 victory points, and this one I get 0. That's how that works. If this wasn't here, then I'll have to take one of these ones. It's leftmost visible, so this is not worth anything until I get more action tokens. That's what happens. Also what happens is you're chucking out one of your bonus markers. In this case, they've all come out, but as an example, this would come out to wherever I have got these mission action points. So I've only got 3, so it's going to go in the 3 zones. In this case, it would go here, and that's basically how that triggers. If you're the first person to go into one of these zones, initially, no nucleums are out on the board apart from one, which I'll talk to you about in a second. And if you're the first person to take that, then you can pick it up and place it onto an empty spot, in which case there's only 1 left, and you get the bonus associated with what's next to you. So there you go, you get one of these uranium cubes, and if you do not have space to store it, this can only store 2 in this mine, then immediately you can spend it, or you must spend it to get 1 worker. At any time, you can always spend a worker to get money, but you can't do the other way around. So that's how that works. So what else can you do on your turn? Well, as you can see, you've got lots of other symbols. We've talked about develop. You can get a contract. Contract is taking these ones. So you take one of these. In this case, what you want to try and do is get yourself 1 city built, or 1 building built in Prague. So that's down here. And it's got some spaces over here. So as you can see, I put it into these empty notches. There's only space for 4. And again, you cannot take more until you complete them. In this case, I firstly get myself uranium, but then in this case, I'll get myself an ability once I've got a city building built in Prague. What this ability is, it lets me build out an experiment, a level 1 experiment, hence the little 1 illuminated over here. So over here, there's 1 experiment listed. I can grab one of these things, and there's various abilities, which are all unique per player, so you can have a look on here, and I'll tell you what those things do. So that is what you're looking to do. So that's the second one, that's contract. The third one looks very similar, and it's called Urbanize. What does Urbanize look like? Well, it looks a bit like this one down here. And what that lets you do is take a building from here, so building from your supply. As you can see, this is handheld, which is the best way of showing you. Apologies for any wobbly cam. So you're going to take one of your buildings, pay the cost, so 3, and you can place it out. Now this happens to be a yellow building, so you're trying to find a space which is available with a yellow building. In this case, it's fine, but in this case, if there's 2, you've got to take the one where there isn't something shared. So you're going to place that over here, and that's what you can do if you happen to do something which happened to have, obviously, Urbanize on it. Now, instead of doing that, then of course you can place it wherever you want, but just maybe where you want to place the building out. You don't have to pay that one, you can put anyone you like. The reason why I want to build this building out is I had a bonus going on here, so I get myself 2 uranium and 5 points. For now, I'll put that back. So that is the third option. The fourth one is Industrialize. Very similar, but you're taking out one of your nuclear reactors, one of your turbines, or a mine, and again placing out here. So if you look down here, there's a space, so you can fill it in here. In this case, you could put it here. It's going to cost you 2 extra money, or 2 money, but you will get uranium, so that's where you can put them out. Whereas the turbines, again, you're going to find a space over here. Again, put it here, makes sense. And I got turbine. Why have turbines? Well, we talked about powering up buildings. We'll come back onto that. But to get this over to here, the first one costs you nothing. We only needed 1. But if you wanted a second one, then you're going to need a turbine. A third one, you're going to need 2 turbines, etc. So you might want to get more turbines to power stuff up. So that's how that works. As you can see, it starts snowballing along. And finally, we're going to start talking about the final action, which is energizing. So just to remind you about placing out a mine. So that's the second one, the one down here. So again, I recommend playing out your boards. All these balls are identical. It's just you're chucking out your various player colors: blue, red, or basically blue, red, yellow, and teal. So you also will getting, when you place a mine, you'll gain uranium equal to the number of mines you have on the map. So currently I can see I'm placing out a second one. I'll have 2 going out, in which case I'll get 2 uranium into those spaces. As you can see, this one takes up 3 and that takes up 3. So the final one is Energize. This is the most fun, and what you're doing, as I said, you're powering up this, obviously the building over here. So to do it, we've seen how to do it. I power it up, I pay my 3 energy, and what's going to happen now is, again, I get a level 1 experiment, which helps towards endgame conditions as well, plus abilities. I also get myself 2 victory points, and I'll be getting myself 3 of those mission points. As we saw, mission points are important, because when you when you recharge, it's very important to be higher than your opponent, because what's called a Kingsdale occurs. If you're higher than an opponent, then you'll get 6 victory points. The person below will all get 2 victory points. So if you're in a tie, everyone gets 6, ties are friendly, but you ideally want to get higher and higher and higher as possible. And at the end of the game, as you can see, there are various zones. So in this case, yellow will get 5 times the amount of these particular buildings out. Anyone in this zone is going to get, for every mine you've got out, blue, that's me, I'll get 4 times that. Mine's got out, so I've got 2, whereas yellow only gets 3. So you're trying to make sure you get a lot of those mission points by powering up buildings to flip them, and each power equals the value, basically the mission value. So that's 12, and you'll get 12. So that's quite easy to understand. That is the game. So managed to explain that in 10 minutes. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is a SPIEL.digital video. This is obviously a game I got from SPIEL.digital, the first one I picked up. It's in my Board and Dice playlist, the AmassGames playlist, not in the fan rate playlist. It's a 3.99% point complexity rating game. Other T-Series games over there in the corner. This is not T-Series, but there's another T-Series game coming along. But this one in particular I was keen to get to you shown. So this is by Luciani, who I spent 25 minutes chatting with a copy of Nucleum in my back pocket, or back when we were chatting at the Cranio stand. Also, it's by David Turtsey, so check out my David Turtsey playlist, my obviously Board and Dice playlist, amongst many others. Also my Essen Spiel playlist. So that's it. Very beautiful to look at. Nice components. Rating, currently kind of, it's closing in on an 8, but obviously I do very much like those other games which I give about an 8. Obviously Luciani is also partially behind game over there, which is somewhere over here, Lorenzo Il Magnifico Big Box, which is fantastic. Lots of stuff to be aware of. Obviously, there's not that crunchy. It's about 40 seconds, if that, per turn. You just play with the action points that you have. Obviously, they're great to come back to you as well. Again, not using a tripod, so this has been a bit shaky, but hopefully you found this of interest. Of course, like to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let me know the comments are best in YouTube. By all means, watch this video again, by all means, slow it down. Also, head through to the podcast, where I'll be talking about it too. Also on Instagram, there's loads of photos. Also head through to join the discussion on Facebook via Linktree. There are occasionally competitions, but our time sensitive do disappear. And lastly, if you head through to Patreon, you can support the channel over there too. But for now, back to the table.